The next rule with exponents is division. And we talked about multiplication before. We said we should add the exponents. Well, in this particular case, since division and multiplication are opposites, instead of adding, we're going to subtract. So if I end up in a situation where I have x to the fourth power over x to the third power, basically what's happening is I have x times x times x times x. On the bottom, x times x times x. And I'm going to cancel these out, which leaves me with one x on top. So my final answer ends up being, if I take my 4 and I take my 3 and subtract them, my answer ends up being x to the first power, which is exactly what that said when I did my canceling. So let's look at our examples. If I have x to the fifth power on top and x to the second power on bottom, what we're saying is there's 5 x's on top, there's 2 x's on bottom. If I get rid of the 2 x's on bottom and cancel them with 2 x's on top, do a little subtraction, 5 minus 2, I'm going to end up with x to the third power. If there's 2 variables, x to the sixth, y to the seventh, and on the bottom, x to the eighth, y to the second, here's what you need to keep in mind. In this particular case, I'm going to do my subtraction wherever the larger exponent is, because I'm taking 6 x's from up here. Well, if I take 6 x's, there's going to be 2 x's left, but they're going to be on the bottom, because that's where the extra x's were. So when I did 6 minus 8, it's important that I put the 2 with it, but where do I put it? I always put it on the side with the larger number. If I do the 7 minus 2, I have y to the fifth power on the top. The same ideas hold true if there's more variables and or there's coefficients. What I would suggest doing in a question like number 15 is breaking this into, if not on paper, in your head, a bunch of different scenarios, because it might be easier for you to see this if you think about it broken down like that. Do not do subtraction here. This is 4/6. Simplify this the way you would regularly simplify numbers. 4/6 is the same as 2/3. I have 6 x's left on top. 8 minus 2, I have 6 y's left on top. And since there's one z to the first and one z to the first on bottom and top, these end up just canceling each other out. So my final answer has no z's in it. Over here, I look at my 3/9. My 3/9 is going to simplify to 1/3. I look at my x to the third, my x to the eighth. It's going to give me x, 5 of them on bottom. Y to the fourth, y to the ninth, it's going to give me 5 y's on the bottom. So my final answer is 1/3 x to the fifth, y to the fifth.